Go there, yes, we are recording.
All right. All right, so welcome to the May 18th MNRCC meeting. Warren and I are here, and we have on the phone Francina, Rhonda, and Francis. Thank you for joining in. Rich is at therapy right now, so when he gets off of that, so call him. So can we get an approval of the agenda for today, please?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes that were distributed for our previous meeting on April 20th.
So moved.
Second?
So,
Okay, thank you. All right, the chair's report was distributed to everybody. Does anybody have any questions about it? Okay, we don't have a board report because we don't have a board member yet. Hopefully within a month it'll happen. Ellen, you want to give us a new member update?
Sure.
She's been very, very busy.
So we've been talking to the mayors in Westchester, and so the mayor of New Rochelle has sent up a name to the governor. The White Plains mayor said they should have something this week, and the same with the Yonkers mayor. So they may end up, the governor may have more to choose from than needed, but that's helpful because with their vetting process, then if somebody doesn't make it through, he's got another name to pull from.
Okay. How many positions are open now?
So,
Putnam, 3 from Westchester and the Bronx.
Yeah,
Yeah.
5.
we have total,
And then-
5.
Right.
total
And
of 5
then
positions.
Marisol is working on the Bronx position, also, which we're hopeful on, because it sounds like she's actively working on that. And then, it sounds as though Neil is involved in helping.
Yeah, in
Fill the
Putnam,
Putnam
trying to get
Brewster.
potentially Brewster,
Yeah.
someone from Brewster to be
Brewster. So,
a member, so that would be good. And they're pretty good. I mean, they're a pretty good local, small local government, and, you know, to be active there, so.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I think one thing that you know, I think everybody in the room has sort of seen the material, but in the ongoing saga of Amtrak and their problems over at Penn Station, there have been some published reports today and appear to be right about them looking into the possibility of running trains out of Grand Central.
The Empire Service.
The Empire Service trains, three trains in, 3 trains out is what they're talking about.
I think that's a great idea. I just think it's going to be very confusing for the passengers, the customers, because where do I go? Do I go to Penn Station? Do I go to Grand Central? I think they should just bring all 12 of them here.
But we are, you know, we're working on, have been talking with Amtrak and have yet to completely iron it out, but we want to have Amtrak come into PCAC in June, our meeting in June, and talk about what they're planning to do, because it will affect all the councils. Long Island, you know, has the biggest direct impact, of course, because they run all their trains basically out of there with some small exceptions. But you know, transit is going to be affected when people are cross honoring to get folks over to Woodside, say, to start the Port Washington branch and service, if they do that again.
if in this juggling that they're doing, if the schedule will get affected, and they could actually put a train that gets you up there in time to attend meetings in Albany and those sorts of things, you know, at a much more reasonable time than right now. I think the earliest you can get up there is like 11 o'clock, and for the things that happen at 9, that doesn't work at all.
Yeah, I think
What is the,
there used to be an earlier train.
yeah, that isn't now.
But I guess it's no longer, they pulled that off the schedule.
That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Because I know I've gotten up there, you know, significantly, in the morning, significantly before we some of the advocates sat down and had like a breakfast.
I don't know when they cut that.
But
train,
yeah,
but, I mean, the amount of interaction between the city and the state, that,
It would make sense.
it's not well served by
Yeah.
Amtrak right now.
I was, thinking since my preference, if I was in charge, I would have all 12 of those
Moved
Empire
over.
trains come here
yeah.
for the duration until they get it all together.
What is the capacity?
Or they could turn some of the trains at Croton and then let Metro North carry the passengers into the Grand
Right,
Central.
they have several possibilities.
So that might be a better idea than they're afraid of congesting 44 tracks or whatever we have here. It just has to be easy for the passengers and customers. It has to be easy for them.
Yeah.
Well, there's something, Randy and I were at the New Jersey Transit Advocates meeting, and we got quite an update on what's going on
good.
at Penn Station. And what they said was, there were 2 times, 2-week periods, there's gonna be a major shutdown of tracks in Penn Station. One is gonna be in July, right, Randy? The other will be in August. And they're looking at 25% reduction of service.
Wow.
And that's very important. And we've got New Jersey Transit at least come up and say, hey, we're gonna have to publish schedules to show what trains are not gonna run into Penn Station. Some may run to Hoboken and everything else. But that's a big constraint. And the Empire trains come in through that same corridor. So you've got a huge problem.
Yeah.
You've got a huge problem there, and how that's gonna be solved. And those 4 weeks, 2 in July and 2 in August, are something that's gotta be addressed.
Do
MCAT
they
has
know
gotta
which
address
weeks they
this.
are in July? And which
Yeah,
weeks are
they're
in
one,
August?
I don't recall exactly what the second one, but one basically starts the weekend after the 4th of July, the
Right.
week of the 4th of July.
It goes for 2
It
weeks.
goes, and those are subject to, I mean, those are probably not in stone, although I think that's what Amtrak wants to do.
But you see, what's gotta happen is New Jersey Transit's gotta put this out.
Schedules,
Right.
yeah.
No, I know.
They've gotta actually put out a schedule for that.
Right,
And
right.
tell everybody what's going on. 25% reduction is a huge cut in
Yeah.
service.
No, I went to the legislative hearing that the Assembly Committee on Corporations, Authorities and Commissions held last week. And the president, the CEO of Amtrak was there, as well as some of his other folks. And they talked about a lot of these things. Basically, they have a huge problem with assembling labor to do this stuff.
But they've committed to do it, they'll take pulling people off other projects.
No, I know.
That's what they told us.
They're gonna focus.
They're having to do that because, and they basically admitted they aren't able to do work on holiday weekends because they wouldn't be able to raise the staff necessary to do the work.
Well, they told us yesterday that they're even shutting down the work at Baltimore,
Yeah.
so that they can bring
No.
people up here.
Well, it's, that shows how, I think it shows how fragile they are, which, I think it was in the chair's report, that potentially impacts Eastside Access.
Oh, yes.
Which is a Long Island Railroad project, but that, the fact that Long Island Railroad cannot shift some trains over to their new terminal under Grand Central means that Metro North cannot operate out of Penn Station, which is really it's one of the remaining unserved markets in Metro North territory, with Metro North having such a high percentage of the commuter market into the city from their traditional markets, the Bronx and some other areas that could be reached. And some people that would like to go to Penn Station would like to go to the west side rather than the east side are some of their remaining untapped markets. So that's a big deal for Metro North and its riders, as well as Long Island.
All right. So let's, if we don't have anything more, let's let our guest give his presentation to us. Do you need
I
the
mean,
other
it's-
fellow here, or you can do it on
You
your
know,
own?
I can do it on my
we
own.
talked about, I mean, I talked to John Kissich
Yes.
about, you know, and we said, you know, I basically said we wanted to be fairly informal about it. We don't, obviously, we have 3 folks on the phone,
Right.
4 in the room, at the moment.
Sure.
But we just want to get a sense of what, you know, what's going on in fleet maintenance, how it's transitioned over transition and evolved over, say, the last decade, and how reliability centered maintenance, that kind of an approach is working out there. And I'm sure there's probably some individual questions. I mean, I know one thing we noted in there, these guys are both West of Hudson customers, and they're very interested in how New Jersey Transit is maintaining the fleets over there. I mean, I don't know if you want to sort of kick it off and give us a little overview. Or?
Yeah, sure, I can give you an overview. First, I probably should introduce myself. My
Yeah,
name is Jeff Weston, the Deputy Director of Maintenance Planning for the Maintenance of Equipment Department here at Metro North. I've been with the railroad for 24 years, and the majority of that time has been in the mechanical department. I had about a 6-year or so hiatus where I went to training, and I actually ran the mechanical training group. So that was also, you know, connected to mechanical, but outside the mechanical department. So have a lot of background in what it is we're interested in talking about. I've worked in various roles here at the railroad, quality assurance, maintenance planning, training, as I mentioned. So you know, been pretty heavily involved in how we maintain our equipment throughout my career. So I guess we'll start at the beginning, kind of an overview in terms of what the maintenance plan actually is here at Metro North. We have, for those of you, I'm sure you've looked at our annual reviews and you've looked at our materials, but we have 11 fleets and 1,186 pieces of equipment that we maintain at various stages. So our inspections really run from a daily inspection, which we call a calendar day mechanical inspection, all the way through a higher level inspection, which is a 3-year, 5-year, 6-year, 8-year, depending on the interval and depending on the equipment that we're actually talking about. You know, there's different maintenance intervals that we run.
Do you want questions at the end?
Whenever you'd like, it's fine. Yeah. Do you have a?
Well, just, one is, how those intervals have changed over time.
Right. Yeah, I can get to that, but
That's
yeah, you know, we have expanded the intervals, and most of it has been, well, I shouldn't say most of it. Some of it has been because we have new equipment that's come on, so I'll talk about that as well. But you know, the newer equipment that we receive is more intelligent, right? And
Right.
more features on it that allow us to extend the maintenance cycles, as well as the use of RCM. So we'll talk about RCM a little bit in a couple of minutes. But RCM has definitely helped us to increase the intervals that we're running the equipment on right now. So, but again, I can get to that as we go forward. So I was saying we have everywhere from a calendar day all the way up through a higher level inspection, which is again 3-year, 5-year, depending upon the equipment types that we operate. All of those inspection criteria and all of the inspection intervals, I should say, are somewhat driven by federal standards. So the federal government tells us that we have to shop a car, for example, every 92 days to do a mechanical inspection, and of course that's in compliance with CFR 229. So that's a locomotive safety standard that we have to follow. So we are obligated, and we do maintain those intervals based on government standards. In those standards, there are certain items that require inspection, but then there's items that we actually expand upon. So as a railroad, we use RCM, and we use
That's reliability-centered maintenance?
reliability-centered maintenance. So in other words, what is the equipment telling me about how the environment is impacting it? Right? So the manufacturer could tell us that a component should last, as an example, a component maybe should last 10 years. But as we run the equipment and we realize that in our environment, it really doesn't last 10 years. Or maybe it lasts more than 10 years. So we'll adjust the interval to meet really what the equipment can actually sustain in the environment that we run in. So manufacturers give us suggestions, but their suggestions are based on, environmental factors that may not be here at Metro North. So running a Greenville terminal is a whole lot different than running out in the middle of the road. Exactly. So we have to take all those things into account. And that's part of what we're doing, especially on the newer equipment. So newer equipment is pretty much our whole fleet at this point. We have M7 and M8 as a prime example of newer equipment. Again, very intelligent equipment, but it still takes a lot of work on our part to start to understand exactly how long is that equipment going to last for us here at Metro North. So that's kind of the overview.
Can I ask a,
Sure.
so the Enterprise Asset Management Program,
Yes.
has that, just, because it's helpful for us to know where credit, you know, when a change is being made and it's positive, and this
Right.
way of looking at it where you used to get it, oh, the train should last however many years.
Right.
That was it. And it does seem as though now this new, it's performance-based, you know, much more real-time almost.
Right.
Did that program help move you in the direction of that, or were you already doing it
Well, I think
in a lot of ways?
to some extent we were doing it. I think all the railroads do it to a certain extent. What EAM is personally, from my own viewpoint, what EAM is helping us with is really getting together with the other properties to understand exactly what they do. So Metro North has always had a good relationship, a good working relationship with Long Island Railroad.
I sure hope so.
And for obvious reasons, we have similar equipment, we run in similar environments, right? So what, you know, we find something, we share it with them, they find
Best
something, they share it with
practices.
us, best practices, exactly. But, you know, things like New York City Transit, not so much. We may not hear from them much at all, right? Occasionally, but, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
But what EAM has done, and we're really in the infancies of EAM, so we haven't fully implemented it, you know, there's still things onboarding from that. But I think it's gonna actually put us all together on the same page. We'll be able to learn from each other. New York City Transit has a lot more equipment than Metro North.
Right.
So they may have a best practice that they utilize just based on sheer volume of equipment that they have. You know, their planning aspect may be different than ours. So there's lots of things that we can learn by working closer together. I think that's EAM's gonna drive it. You know, Metro North has had a lot of input into EAM because we have been using RCM for a number of years now. So I think there's a lot to gain from the EAM program in and of itself, even if that's just, you know.
Yeah, that, no, it puts it in perspective of sort of what,
Yeah, if we're asking, is it worth the investment, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, getting everybody talking more.
Right. As I said, over the last 10 years or so, I think that's part of our first discussion, right? We want to know sort of what's changed in the last 10 years and maybe where we're headed. But in the last 10 years, Metro North, again, we've received 2 new fleets. We've received 2 new major fleets, I should say, and both of them the EMU, the electric multiple units. The M7, which replaced the M1 fleet, and the M8, which is actually replaced the M2, the M4, and the M6 fleet. So these 2 fleets are major undertakings for us. It's a complete shift from, you know, the older technology, which was kind of archaic, I'll say, at this point, because it's, you know, the old contactors and contact tips that need to be maintained, so there's a lot heavier maintenance that's happening on a 92-day cycle.
But the M3s must have some of those old components.
The M3s still do, yes,
You've
absolutely, yeah.
done a
The M3
nice
is-
job of rebuilding them.
Right, exactly. The M3 is very, very similar to the M1. And Metro North, unlike the Long Island Railroad, when they rebuilt their M3s, they actually upgraded some components to more solid state. We did not do that. We chose to stay with the older systems. So that's good and bad, right? So Long Island Railroad had some learning curves there, but we've been able to maintain the equipment in a very good fashion that allows us to run it for today and still have good reliability and availability of equipment. So we think we're doing pretty good with the M3s. You know, the M3s are on the table to be replaced as well. The M9 hopefully will replace Metro North's M3. We're kind of thinking that. That's not final, but you know, that's kind of the process that we're going through. But just to get back, go ahead.
So there's replacement. How much has fleet expansion, or is that in your future?
Well, no, actually it's not. So
Okay.
go ahead.
I was
see if
just
I can answer
wondering,
that.
as you're ordering these cars,
Right.
are you doing fleet expansion at the same time as replacement?
Well, if you were to look based on car numbers, I think
Yeah.
you would say, yeah, Metro North has a larger fleet today than we've had in the past. And we do, right? There's more cars and there's more vehicles. But I think one of the things that we lose sight of is how much capacity does the car have? In other words, how many passengers can sit in one car, right? So the capacity for the cars is actually a bit lower
Yeah.
than the older
Right,
cars.
exactly.
Which, that automatically makes us need to expand. But if you look at the M8, we're at 405 cars, where we had a M2 fleet of 234, I believe it was. Initially 48 M4s and 42 M6. So we didn't even have, right around 300 cars or so.
Right.
Now we have 405 with an additional 60 coming. And that really just indicates the increase in ridership and the increased demands on the mechanical department to be able to provide, those cars out on the road for passengers in New York. So to answer your question, I think it is taken into account.
Yeah.
And it definitely impacts the way that maintenance planning provides the plan, right?
Right,
Because the
right,
shop
exactly.
only, let's face it, the shop has a certain capacity. So my job as a maintenance planning department is to really figure out and help the shops be successful in performing the number of inspections that need to be done in the course of a year, or 92 days, or whatever it is,
Right.
right? So shops have capacities, and our job is really to work with those shops to highlight, help them understand where they can gain efficiencies. So we do a lot of that kind of stuff, Six Sigma kind of work.
With the New Haven shop, which was expanded recently, does it have room for growth?
It does, yeah. So the CCO shop, that's what we refer to, the new facility, is specifically designed for the M8 fleet. That shop replaces an older shop, which we call the M2 fleet, and I bet you can guess that was designed for the M2 fleet, built in 1972. So we needed a new facility for a new fleet. So that facility, yes, there is room for expansion, but we believe that the facility was built large enough to be able to handle the size of the fleet that we have. In fact, more. It was probably overbuilt for the current fleet that we were
Redundancy is good.
Yes, absolutely. It's a state-of-the-art facility, and to be honest, the employees love it. Management is getting used to it, because it's a big change, and that's the way you know the shop and those kind of things.
That would be great, yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's
we
a
could-
beautiful place, it really is.
Where's it located?
It's in New Haven, Connecticut. Yeah, so if
Who
you
were
ever
you
had
talking
an
to see
opportunity.
about a field trip?
You can go through John or myself or Chad.
Sure,
Sure,
we can do
The
that.
facility director is James Heimbecker. He's more than open to people coming out to see. It's still in process, so we have a very large support shop facility attached to the building, which is kind of new for our facilities. We've never had a support shop actually attached to the building, which is nice. Our support shops and support shops, I probably should explain a little bit. The support shop is when I take a part off of a train that can be rebuilt, it needs to go someplace to get rebuilt. Well, the place that it goes internally is called the support shop.
So it's right next door now.
So now it's actually attached to the
great.
building.
So you do a lot of the rebuilding in-house,
We do, yeah.
rather than farming it out.
Exactly. We choose certain components that still need to go out, depending on how technical or the special equipment that might be required for that material to go and get repaired by an external vendor. But we do try to keep as much internally as we can, so.
Have you
it's a
increased
core
that?
inventory.
Increased your ability to do that more? Is that sort of an initiative at all? Or Metro North has always really tried to do things?
I think we've always tried to do things, but I think with the CCO shop, we've taken a conscious step towards, making efficiency, building
Yeah.
efficiency into the whole process.
That's exciting.
So, it's a wonderful thing to see that and to be able to set up a support shop as a manufacturing center.
Yeah.
So it's a big undertaking for us, and like, as I mentioned, James Heimbecker is the facility director, and he's very proud of the work that he's doing, as well he should be, so,
Yeah.
it's a great thing. Harmon, if anybody's been past Groton on Hudson lately, you'll notice that we're coming out of the dark ages, so to speak, at that facility. There's many new buildings already established, so we have well, I should probably back up. So the original building in Harmon was built over 100 years ago, so I don't know how familiar people are with that facility, but obviously a building built over 100 years ago might be a little bit outdated in terms of modern equipment and how you can utilize facilities. So these updates have greatly enhanced our ability to maintain equipment, and a great example of that is the diesel shop, which is building 3 in Harmon. That facility was directly, or I should say specifically built to maintain our diesel locomotives, both our current fleet and any other fleets that we have coming forward. So everything inside of that building is specifically built for diesel locomotives. It definitely enhances our ability to be able to maintain the equipment. I think our reliability numbers kind of reflect that. that change was a positive change for us.
And where were these old fleet?
Yeah, it was all inside of one big building, which we call Building 6 in Harmon, so that major structure that's there. The diesel shop had 2 tracks inside of that facility, and they had to do everything on those 2 tracks. So it was, the space was tight, the facility was limited in terms of exactly what they could get done or how long it took them to do it. That was probably a more limiting factor than anything else. So it's not that you couldn't do it, but you had to move a lot of other stuff around in order to be able to do that. So by designing the campus, what we call all of our facilities now, campus is a set of buildings. Army campus is designed with buildings that are designed specifically for fleet types. The last building that you see going up now is really being designed, believe it or not, for the M7 fleet. There's a very large structure on the, I guess that would be the east side of the building at the moment. It's very long, we're calling that the constant maintenance tracks, and that's where 92-day inspections for our M7 fleet will happen. Today, we're utilizing what we call the coach shop at Harmon, which is designed again for our shoreliner coach fleet, but we're utilizing that building to maintain shoreliners as well as M7s. So this,
When is that gonna come online?
I believe it's mid 18. Don't quote me on it, but I believe that's when we expect that building to be up and running. And lots of exciting things happening in Harmon, just like we have in New Haven, with support shops being built, new wheel and axle shop, new support shops, all of those things. And again, using the same skills and things that we've learned from opening up the CCO shop in New Haven will be applied in Harmon.
So the wheel shop does the flattened wheels and the slip slide.
Well, the flattened wheels are at a wheel true facility, so those are new as well. So we have a new independent wheel true in New Haven, and we have an independent wheel true in Harmon, so we've been able to extend our capacity for truing wheels, which is where we take the defects out of the wheels.
Yeah.
But the wheel and axle shop is actually the facility that builds the wheel and axle sets. In other words, the actual wheels, the
build
gearboxes, and the axles.
So that's
All-
that's in-house?
It's in-house, they're all assembled, with the exception of our Genesis locomotive fleet. But every other fleet, we build the wheel and axle sets.
Does Long Island Railroad do that?
They do.
Transit failure
They do?
too.
They do,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Transit builds their wheels?
Yeah, so we have,
What goes on in the North White Plains then? All these grand things going on in these other places.
well, in North White Plains, we have our paint shop, we have our freight shop that we call it, but that's where all of the work equipment, not the locomotives, but the cars, the gondolas, the
Cranes.
various cranes, yeah, all of those kind of pieces of equipment are maintained there. As well as we're utilizing North White Plains for some modifications, specifically the M3 PTC program will be done at North White Plains. So that was a facility that, while we were developing our in-house PTC installation program, we had to identify locations that were capable of doing it and, good choices in terms of what the infrastructure was and what the capacity was. So North White Plains was chosen to do the M3 PTC.
Is it already underway?
We've got 2 pair done so far. They're both, the first prototypes, and we expect production to begin in June.
And the rest of the fleet?
So the M7 is being done externally. We have Bombardier Transportation doing that work. They're doing it at Arch Street facility, which is a Long Island Railroad facility. We're a little bit better than 50% through that fleet, and it's going very well. They're also going to be doing the camera installation in conjunction with the PTC. The camera part of that project has not begun yet, but it's slated to begin, I believe, again in July of this year, 2017. So the plan is to basically put all the cameras on the M7 fleet at Arch Street.
So the transponders and the other wayside equipment, is that also being installed now?
It is, yeah, the entire packages are being installed.
On the
fleet by
right of
fleet.
way? On the
Yeah.
right of way?
Yes, yeah, on the right of way, yes. I don't have a lot of information on that, I don't deal with MOW, but I know from talking with the engineer who's in charge of our PTC program and kind of hearing some of the grumblings, it's your equipment, it's our track mill, those kind of things, that in fact, yeah, the transponders are well underway. So I think Metro North's in a good position to finish by the deadline that we've been given. So
Great.
PTC is going along well. Okay. So some of the things that have changed outside of the infrastructure, we've talked a lot about shops and facilities, but again, our equipment has changed. And again, the M7 replaced the M1, the M8 replaced M2, M4, M6. major change for us is, for those vehicles really, is the intelligence that the vehicles have. So they have an ability to be able to call in defects while they're on the road, which means that we can evaluate a condition of the equipment before it even arrives at a shop. So the value in that, whether we realize it or not, what's nice about that is we can actually make sure that we have material available, we have manpower available, and we also have space available. You know, shops fill up quickly, they look big, but when you start parking cars inside of them, it's not too long before they're full and you have to figure out, okay, where am I gonna do the work? So it allows us to be able to reroute cars that need some sort of assistance to the right facility that has the material, the people, and the space to be able to handle that in the most efficient way that we can.
So this is another overtime
Sure.
type of theme here. So before, when you were tight on shop space and all that sort of thing,
Right.
and it seemed like at one point there was like a waiting line of cars,
Yeah,
like during
yeah.
the winter, that one winter when it was so
Oh,
bad.
yeah.
And so the percentage of cars that are out for repair now,
Right.
with all these efficiencies you've done versus how many, you know, the before of how many would be out just because there was this capacity problem.
Right.
Do you see that shrinking now of 10%? I don't know what the
Yeah,
percentage
so we
is.
call it our margins, and our margins are shrinking, you know, and the reason for them shrinking is, let's face it, we run more trains.
Right.
So we have to be able to maintain our equipment in a very reliable manner. I think just if we look at Metro North's ability to fill out service, we call it, so in other words, to have enough trains running every day to meet the service requirements, I think that we're showing that our reliability has increased dramatically, to your point.
Because you'd
and we
need a
don't
much
have-
bigger fleet
we
if you
don't
were
have
still
the,
at that reliability.
Right, exactly. We don't have that, and we'll use air quotes, the conga line
Yeah,
outside of
right,
the shop waiting
right.
for equipment to come in. So we've been able to manage through that pretty well. And again, we've used RCM to our advantage so that we really understand when does that component need to be changed so it doesn't fail on the road and we don't get into these situations, especially in winter. Winter is, you know, one of our most difficult times, but we don't want to have to be shopping equipment for the same failure over and over again, or, you know, the whole fleet gets shopped at once. Those are the type of situations that we try to avoid.
I
That's what
want
RCM is all about.
to give our members who are on the phone an opportunity to ask any questions that they may have. You're all still there?
I don't know.
Is everyone still there?
Clicking.
You're clicking?
Yes.
Okay. All right, but please feel free to jump in if you have something comes to mind. Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Okay. Yeah, so I think, again, just through our ability to service the needs of the customers and to keep our trains where they're supposed to be in terms of number of cars, I think that demonstrates our ability to put out a reliable product out of those shops. So I think things are really going well. We should talk a little bit about RCM, so reliability centered maintenance. I mentioned that really what it's all about is identifying and understanding how the equipment is reacting to the environment. We apply RCM to every fleet that we have. So we have a small staff of what we call RCM engineers. I have 3 people who actually work for me, and that's all they do is reliability centered maintenance. And what they're looking for is any